Hey guys, it's me. And today we gonna look at some facts about the Berlin Wall that you might not have known. One of those being that it wasn't supposed to be a permanent thing. In fact, it was meant to be a very temporary solution. But nonetheless, it did stand for almost 28 years from 1961 to 1989. It divided a city, a country, and even families. So let's take a look back with some facts that you might not have known. Starting off this countdown with number 10, the Berlin Wall wasn't meant to last that long. As mentioned in the intro, the Berlin Wall was only intended to be a temporary measure. Its purpose was to prevent West Berliners from escaping to East Berlin, which was struggling economically. The construction of the wall started on August 13, 1961, and within 3 months, more than 500,000 East Germans had fled to the West. The government of East Germany felt they had no other choice but to build a wall around West Berlin to stop the bleeding of its population. They believed that by doing this, they could match their economy with that of West Berlin. This would make it less appealing for people to want to move there. But as we now know, this was very much not the case. The wall only made West Berlin seem like the land of freedom compared to the communist East. The wall also acted as a constant reminder of how divided the two sides were. One side embracing freedom and democracy, and the other living under the control of a brutal dictatorship. The plan was to have the wall up for a couple of years, then tear it down once their economy was improved. But as time went on, East Germany got more and more desperate. They tried everything to improve their economy, but nothing seemed to work. The wall became a permanent fixture in their landscape and a symbol of oppression. You can really see this in the film adaptation of The Lives of Others, where the main character talks about how this wall divides the city and the people. It becomes more of a psychological barrier, where people can't even imagine themselves going over to the other side. But anyways, that's enough about the intro. Let's get into the rest of the facts. Number 9. People were still allowed to travel between the two sides. Even though the Berlin Wall was one of the most heavily guarded borders in the world, people were still allowed to travel between the two sides. There were special checkpoints set up along the wall where people could cross over with the proper documentation. However, these crossings were heavily restricted, and only a small number of people were actually granted permission to use them. For example, during the height of the Cold War, only about 100 people per day were allowed to cross from East to West Berlin. If you wanted to visit someone on the other side, you had to fill out a complicated application and then wait to see if you were approved. If you were lucky enough to be approved, you would then be interrogated by the Stasi, which was East Germany's secret police force. They would ask you a bunch of questions about your trip and make sure that you were unplanning on defecting to the other side. If you passed the interrogation, you would then be given a special permit that allowed you to travel. Keep in mind, you wouldn't be able to just walk through the checkpoint. You'd have to get there in a special car that was approved by the government. Even then, you'd have to go through an extensive search. Your car would be torn apart, and all of your belongings would be checked. They were basically looking for anything that could be used as contraband, such as weapons or illegal substances. Sometimes they'd even go through people as luggage to make sure that they weren't carrying anything that could be used to harm themselves or others. No. 8. Dogs were used to patrol the wall. As we just mentioned, the Berlin Wall was heavily guarded, and the guards had some pretty interesting methods of patrolling the wall. They would sometimes use dogs to help them spot people trying to cross the border illegally. The dogs were trained to be aggressive and would attack anyone who got too close. This was especially dangerous for those who lived near the wall, since they were often in the line of fire. The dogs were also used to patrol the wall at night, since they could easily sniff out anyone who was trying to sneak through. These patrols were dangerous for both the dogs and the people, since it was common for them to be shot by the guards while doing their job. It was also common for people to throw rocks and other objects at the dogs in order to distract them. No, 7. The death strip. Next to the actual wall was what was called the death strip. This was an area that was heavily guarded by both sides and was designed to prevent people from crossing over. The death strip contained things such as barbed wire, tanks, and other obstacles that were used to slow down or kill anyone who tried to cross over. It was also patrolled by both guards and dogs. If anyone was caught in the death strip, it was likely that they would be killed. On the west side, there was also something called the buffer zone. This was an area where photography was banned and non-Germans were prohibited from entering. The buffer zone was put in place to prevent the east side from being able to spy on the west side. Number 6. Spies. With all this talk of the death strip and guard towers, it's easy to forget that the Berlin Wall was also heavily monitored by spies. Both sides had spies that would infiltrate the other side in order to gather intelligence. These spies would often live under assumed identities and would try to blend in with the locals. Sometimes they would be caught and sent back to the side that they came from. Other times they would be executed for spying. If a spy was caught on the west side, they were usually sentenced to prison. But if they were caught on the east side, they were usually executed right away. It was dangerous work, but it was important for both sides to know what the other was doing at all times. No. 5. Escape attempts. Despite the danger, many people tried to escape from East to West Berlin. Some of the more daring attempts involved digging tunnels under the wall. This was extremely risky, since if you were caught, you would likely be killed. But people were willing to take the risk in order to live in a place where they had more freedom. The most famous tunnel escape was done in 1964, when a group of 3 men dug a tunnel from a bar in West Berlin to a courtyard in East Berlin. They used a frickin' spoon to dig the tunnel, and it took them over a year to complete. Once the tunnel was finished, they opened a hatch in the courtyard and escaped to West Berlin. No. 4. People who got stuck. In addition to those who successfully escaped, there were also many people who got stuck trying to escape. Sometimes they would be caught and sent back to the side that they came from. Other times, they would get injured or even die trying to escape. There was even a case where someone was shot by a guard while trying to escape, and the bullet lodged itself in a pregnant woman's stomach. She miscarried as a result of the injury. It was dangerous to try to escape, but people were willing to take the risk in order to live in a place where they had more freedom. No. 3. Built by the Soviets. While the Berlin Wall was built by East Germany, it was actually funded by the Soviet Union. This was because the Soviets wanted to keep East Germany in their sphere of influence. After World War II, the Soviets had occupied East Germany, and they were determined to keep it as a communist state. This meant that they had to stop the flow of people from East to West Berlin, which was becoming a major problem for them. The Soviets also helped to build the infrastructure for the wall, such as the guard towers and the barbed wire fences. They provided the materials and the manpower to make sure that the wall was built as quickly as possible. Without the help of the Soviets, it's unlikely that the wall would have been built so quickly, or that it would have been as effective in stopping people from leaving East Germany. No. 2. The Brandenburg Gate. When the Berlin Wall was built, it was widely believed that it would never come down. As a result, many people thought that the Brandenburg Gate, which was one of the main symbols of Berlin, would be lost forever. The gate had been damaged during the war, and it was unclear if it would ever be restored. But in 1989, when the wall came down, everyone was hopeful that the gate would be restored to its former glory. It took a few years, but in 1990, the gate was finally reopened to the public. Today, it is one of the most popular tourist destinations in Berlin. No. 1. Legacy. The Berlin Wall may have come down in 1989, but its legacy lives on today. Every year, people from all over the world come to Berlin to pay tribute to those who lost their lives trying to escape from East to West Berlin. There are also a number of museums and memorials dedicated to the wall and its victims. The Berlin Wall was a sad reminder of the Cold War and the division of Germany. But it is also a symbol of hope, since it shows that even the most insurmountable barriers can be overcome. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something new. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button and comment something down below. To see more videos like this one, click one of the cards up in the corner or click the subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time.